Over the next 10 days, 13 UCI World Championship titles will be decided across junior, U23 and elite fields.
For the first time ever, those World Championships will take place in Africa. Rwanda plays host to the event this year, making it the first Road Worlds at high altitude since 1995, when it was held in Colombia.
Things kick off this weekend with the individual time trials and culminate in the women's and men's road races on Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th of September respectively. Coming up, the routes for the road races and time trials and a deep dive into the favourites on what is one of the toughest courses ever seen.
First, a very quick recap of what happened this time last year in Zurich. Lotte Kopecky defended her title in the road race, while Tadej Pogacar took his first title in the men's. Remco Evenepoel beat Ghana for the second year in a row in the TT, whilst Grace Brown won the women's, retiring from the sport shortly after.
Basically dropping the mic at the same time, really, Grace Brown, wasn't she? Pogacar and Evenepoel will both be competing again this year in both disciplines, but Ghana won't, and neither will Kopecky. Why? Well, partly because of injury with Kopecky, but in Ghana's case, because of the parkour. There's a segue for you, Connor.
Thanks, mate. We'll start with the route for the road races. The men's is a fairly standard distance at 267.5 kilometres, but it features an eye-watering 5,475 metres of climbing.
Now, for context, that's about the same amount of climbing as they faced on stage 18 of this year's Tour de France on the Col de la Loze. It's also 1,000 metres more than last year's men's race in Zurich, which was already seen as particularly hilly.
The race itself is in two main parts. It starts on a 14.9 kilometre local circuit around Kigali, which includes two short steep climbs, the Côte de Kigali Golf, 800 metres at 8.1%, and the Côte de Kimihurra, 1.3 kilometres at 6.3%. Most of it on cobbles.
Most of it, yes. After 9 laps and 135 Ks of that circuit, they'll then tackle a longer, more difficult extended loop. That one features the Côte de Péage, plus Mount Kigali, which is 5.9 Ks at 6.9% average, and then the infamous Mur de Kigali, or Wall of Kigali, a 400-metre climb on cobbles that averages 11%.
This has been used regularly at the Tour de Rwanda, and the fans there are always off the charts. I've no doubt it'll be even bigger and better for the World Champs.
I'm so looking forward to that climb, even though they only do it once. Once they've completed that loop, they then have 6 of the smaller 15k laps remaining, bringing it up to that total of 268 kilometres. The finish of the races is over the top of the cobbled climb of the Côte de Kimihurra. It drags on up after the cobbles for about another kilometre or so.
It'll be interesting to see how decisive the big climb on the Longbourg loop is going to be. The last kilometre averages 13.5%, so it's pretty brutal. Yeah. It crests with 104 kilometres still remaining, so a long way still to go.
It is a long way still to go. However, last year, you may remember that Pogacar attacked with 101 Ks to go, bridging across to the front group with the help of his teammate Tratnik, later going clear of Sivakov and then soloing from 52 Ks out. Obviously, he's got a history of doing long attacks, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if the race does light up on that longer climb.
Right, on to the women's. They don't take in the extended loop, but stick to the smaller circuit, which they'll cover 11 times. That makes their race 165 kilometres in total. The under-23 men do exactly the same. Junior men, 8 laps for 120k, and junior women, 5 laps and 75 kilometres.
Plus, this year, for the first time in history, there is a separate U23 race for women. They're going to cover the same 8 laps as the junior men.
Okay, on to the time trials, which kick the whole event off at 40.6 kilometres. It's not super long by distance. However, there is almost 700 metres of climbing to be dealt with.
I was having a look, actually. That is the most since Lisbon, all the way back in 2001. And it's probably the reason why Pogacar is giving it another go, having skipped last year's event. Most of that climbing comes on the Côte de Nyanza, which they tackle twice, but from different sides.
The first ascent is 2.4 kilometres at 6%, whilst on the return leg it's 6.6 kilometres at 3.5%. The Côte de Péage, which features on the extended lap on the road race, comes with around 10 kilometres to go. And then the finish line is in the same place as the road races, over the top of the cobble climb of the Kimihurra.
The women's individual time trial is quite similar, but they make the turn a little earlier after the Nyanza climb and miss out on the Côte de Péage. That gives them a distance of just over 31 kilometres with 456 metres of climbing. The U23 men again will use the same course, whilst the U23 women and the juniors tackle a shorter, slightly flatter course.
So those are the routes. A reminder that all the races take place at a base altitude of around 1,400 metres, which could impact the results somewhat. Although almost everyone doing altitude camps now, they should be used to it.
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? Most of the elite and pro riders anyway. Incidentally, the weather looks like it should be fantastic for racing. Around 25 degrees and dry this weekend. However, the long-term forecast does show a chance of rain for the road races, and based on what I've seen in those conditions at the Tour de Rwanda in the past, that could make things sketchy / treacherous.
Okay, on to the riders. I'm going to start with the men's individual time trial because that comes on the first day of racing. Remco Evenepoel is back to defend the title that he's won for the past 2 seasons. As we record this, there are no odds available, but it's safe to say that Remco will start as favourite.
I did just spot some odds just before we started recording.
Oh, yeah?
Anyway, he's not favourite, Pogacar is, but we'll get onto that in a second. With Evenepoel, you've got to say the climbs on the course should suit him perfectly, and he's undeniably been the best time trial rider of the last couple of years. His results speak for themselves, really, don't they? The only question mark then is over his form. He was good at the Tour of Britain, but clearly not back to 100%. Personally, though, I'd be surprised if he didn't take his 3rd consecutive title.
As mentioned at the start, no Filippo Ganna this year. He's decided to skip it. So second favourite is likely to be Pogacar.
No, first favourite, like I've just seen the odds before. I forgot to tell you, sorry. And Pogacar, according to the bookmakers, is the favourite for the time trial as well. I don't agree with him, but there we go.
Interesting, because Pogacar's record at the world's individual time trial is pretty dismal by his standards, at least. 10th 2 years ago is his best result.
I guess you can say that the course, again, really should suit him better than any he's done before at the World Championships, but I would be surprised if he won. I often say that about Tadej Pogacar. Jay Vine will be right up there, you'd imagine. Again, the climb should suit him as well, and he was mega strong at the recent Welter individual time trial. Fellow Australian Luke Plapp, I think, could also get a medal on his day.
Next in line, Stefan Kuhn and Bruno Amarel, both extremely strong against the clock, but neither of them are prolific winners. Again, the nature of the course should suit them, though in the absence of Ganna, Matteo Cattaneo and Matteo Sobrero represent Italy, they could well be top 10.
Spain also have 2 strong riders in the form of Romeo and Garcia Pierna, but medals are probably a long shot. Magnus Sheffield should be up there on a good day, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Paul Sexas gets on. The 19-year-old Frenchman has decided to do the elite event here rather than the U23, despite being just about 19 years old.
Yeah, he's so talented, nothing would surprise me with him. Timon Arensman represents the Netherlands, although he's had a very long season at this point, whilst the German team has Schachmann, who can be solid against the clock.
Yeah, there was a stat came out earlier this year where for about 5 or 6 time trials, he and Almeida finished within a second of each other on long time trials as well, so that does mean he's solid against the clock. Meanwhile, in the women's, Marlon Reusser of Switzerland has to start as favourite. In fact, she is favourite now I've seen the odds. She's been incredible this year, and given how good her climbing has gotten as well, this course will suit her even more. She's not raced since she pulled out of the first day of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, so from that point of view, her form is unknown.
Demi Vollering will also be eyeing the rainbow bands for the first time in her career. She was runner-up to Grace Brown last year, but with the Australian now retired, there's a strong chance we get a brand new world champion. Or it could be Chloe Dygert of USA, who's won it twice before.
Again, she's a rider where nothing would surprise me, Connor, Chloe Dygert, even if she won it by over a minute. The other previous winner of the individual time trial is Anna van der Breggen, Vollering's teammate, of course, in the Dutch squad. The French will be hopeful of a medal with Cédrine Cabal or Juliette Labou, who are 1-2 at the French champs this year.
Watch out for Antonio Niedermayer of Germany as well. She was 4th last year and close to the medals. Olympic silver medalist Anna Henderson will be there, and you'd imagine it's a great course for her. Personally, I'm going to go with Reusser.
Oh, hold your horses, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Predictions come later on.
Sorry. Okay.
Anyway, I would agree, but predictions come later, Connor. Still time to change your mind. Right, on to the elite men's road race then. No prizes for guessing who the favourite for that one is. Tadej Pogacar, of course. His odds, when we're recording this, are 1.2, which means if you put a £10 bet on for him to win, you'll come away with a £2 profit if he does win. After taking a break post-Tour de France, where of course he was very fatigued, he looked pretty good in Montreal and Canada last week, and it is hard to think of a better circuit for him, really, isn't it? I mean, not many wouldn't suit him, but it's got cobbles, short, steep climbs, and that longer one as well.
It wouldn't just be the bookies who'd be surprised if he didn't win.
No,
would
true.
it? I think, yeah. His main support, though, will come from Mohoric, Mezgec, Novak and Roglic. And yes, I would expect Roglic to be 100% in support of Pogacar, even if that's as a kind of satellite rider in an earlier move.
Yeah, a different kind of support, isn't it? But I think they'll all ride for Pogacar, surely. Second favourite with the bookmakers is one of Pogacar's UAE trade teammates, Isaac Del Toro. His run up to this race has been littered with wins in one-day races, a bit like Mark Hirschi of Switzerland last year. However, they weren't against the deepest field of riders, and the extra distance of the World Championships might be a step too far for him.
We don't have many data points for him in races of this duration, just 2 finishes in Milan-San Remo, which isn't as arduous a race as this will be. That said, I think he'll be up there. As Mexico's only entrant, he'll have to do it all himself. He's clearly very race savvy as well as being strong, and yes, I say that despite what happened on the Col de Fenestra this year.
I wonder what you're going to say then. Equal odds with Del Toro is Remco Evenepoel. Of course, he's also a former world champion on the road from 2022 over in Australia. And as a double winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well, this course should be right up his street if he's on 100% of form. So just like the individual time trial, the only question mark is how close he is to that best form. I've no doubt, though, that Belgium will make their mark on the race. They don't have Wout van Aert. They've got Campenaerts, Benoot, Van Wilder, Hermans, Murisser, Uiterbroeks and Florian Vermeers.
That's a strong team.
It is
a strong team. And one, I think, they'll be aggressive with too.
I think so, yeah.
Trying to put Pogacar on the back foot. Next up, though, Tom Pidcock, whose odds have come down fairly significantly since his amazing performance at the Vuelta.
Yeah, he's 16-1 at the moment, isn't he? If he has maintained his form from that race, he'll be a real threat here in Rwanda. Great Britain also have Oscar Onley. He doesn't really have any standout results in one-day classics, but at the same time, he won't have done many one-day races with more than 5,000 metres of climbing like this. They're going to be supported by the likes of Fred Wright and Joe Blackmore.
Next on the bookmakers list is Mathias Skelmos of Denmark. Mads Pedersen has decided that the course is too hard for him, so Skelmos will lead the team. He's never finished better than 10th at the Worlds. He was solid in Canada, but I think we'll get a better idea of his form this week in Luxembourg.
Next up then, Ben Healy of Ireland. So he resumed racing in Luxembourg after the Tour de France, and you'd imagine he is licking his lips looking at the parcours in Rwanda. Wouldn't that be something to see an Irish rider right up there in the men's road race again?
Yeah.
Must be quite difficult to get selected for Ireland now compared to back in your day, Connor.
I'm not going to ride to that, Dan. I'm not riding.
How many times did you do the World Champs for Ireland?
4 times.
And how many times did you finish, Connor?
No times. I was in the break 3 times though. But yeah.
I mean, I'm taking the bit. Between us, Connor, we have ridden the elite UCI World Road Race Championships 5 times and never finished once. It's quite the record, isn't it?
We can give some very good predictions of what will happen in the first part of the race, though.
Well, there is that, yeah. Yeah. Basically, the shit kickers will not finish and pull out. Right, back on topic. Richard Carapaz of Ecuador is the next on the list. He skipped La Vuelta a España to concentrate on the one days in Italy. Not really showing the form there that would suggest he can medal at the World Championships, but at the same time, Carapaz is a man for the big races, isn't he? Like Del Toro, he'll be flying solo because Ecuador only qualified 1 rider.
We shall move on now to Juan Ayuso. Like Del Toro, he's got a very good record in smaller one-day races. His form at the Vuelta wasn't enough to go for GC, but it might well be that his form comes good since he didn't go too deep every day.
Is that a controversial sentence? Anyway, Spain have a decent team with Soler, Verona, Adria, Romeo and Garcia Pierna amongst their roster as well. But it's been 7 years actually now since they got a medal at the race. That was when Valverde won it in 2018 in Austria. Is that where you're in the breakaway, Connor?
Yeah, it was in the break in Austria.
Nice.
Yeah, well, big gap there.
Right, next on the list is Australia's Jay Vine.
Like Spain, Australia have some real strength and depth without anyone that you can point at as a standout favourite. Storer could be good too. He won a one-day race in Italy recently. Then there's Hindley, Matthews, Plapp and Harper too.
I think like Belgium, they'll try and get a few of their riders ahead of the game in an earlier move. Maybe not the first one, but midway through the race. And the same actually might go for the French squad. Double world champion Julien Alaphilippe is their captain, but despite his recent win over in Quebec, I don't see him being up there in Rwanda personally, although I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see him up there.
Yeah. The rest of the team is very solid though. Sivakov, Sexas, Madouas, Valentin Paddy-Patra, Louis Bardet, who has been flying.
He was good in Canada, wasn't he?
I am almost certain they are going to light things up. In fact, I'm getting quite excited just thinking about it. I've got a bit of a feeling about Alaphilippe as well, you know.
Have you?
I do, yeah. The only surprise is that Romain Grosjean isn't going.
I was surprised at that as well. I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet, but maybe that will change. Germany are going to be led by Max Schachmann and Georg Zimmermann. Colombia by Egan Bernal and Harold Tejada, and Norway by Andreas Leknesund. I've got a couple of big teams still to go though. Italy are strong as well. Not a completely confirmed lineup, but we understand it's Ciccone, Pellizzari, Banjoli, Fortunato, Frigo, Cataneo and Sobrero.
You'd have to imagine that Ciccone will be the leader. But once again, that's another team that can send riders up the road and have confidence in them.
Yeah. The tactics are going to be interesting, aren't they? All against Pogacar. The Dutch have Arendsman, Mollema, Pauls and Van den Broek. The USA have Sheffield and Simmons. Well, I think there's just a little bit too much climbing for them. And finally, Switzerland have Hirschi, Jan Christen and Mauro Schmidt. Hirschi, we mentioned him earlier, he's not been in quite such good form on the lead up to the race this year. But Jan Christen is a young rider on the rise. I think he could be a surprise on the day.
Right, I think it's time to move on to the women's race. We'll go in order of odds again. And the bookmaker's favourite is Pauline from Provaux.
Which is understandable, really, isn't it? She was dominant on the climbs at the Tour de France Femmes, but by winning Paris-Roubaix as well this season, she's shown she can do basically everything, on road and off. The one unknown again, though, is her form. She has raced once since the Tour at the classic Lorient Agglomeration, or Grand Prix Plouay, as I prefer to call it. There, though, she finished in 20th.
However, in changing her decision to compete at the Worlds, which she wasn't originally down for, you'd imagine she's only going because she thinks she can win. The French have got one of the strongest teams too, with Labousse, Cabal, Lynette, Music and double Tour stage winner Maëva Escribin.
So for once, we might have a genuine rival to the Dutch strength in depth. Let's move on to them now, actually, the Dutch. Vollering is the second favourite for the race. Again, she hasn't raced much since the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. In fact, she hasn't raced at all, Connor. But she wouldn't bother going if it wasn't for the win, in my opinion.
Looking at the team, I think it might be quite a cohesive unit this year as well. Yeah, it's too hard for Vos, surely. So she'll be working for Vollering. Roy-Jackers, Castellijn and Van Amra are good, but not at Vollering's level for the time being.
There's Van der Breggen as well, though, isn't there? That could be an interesting one. There might be a little bit of tension there, given what happened towards the end of last year. But I actually do think Van der Breggen will offer her full support to Vollering. She just hasn't quite shown enough this year to warrant a claim at Dutch co-leadership, in my opinion. Let us know what you think at home. Right, third favourite with the bookmakers is Italy's Elisa Longo Borghini.
This will be the 14th time she competes in the World's Road Race. She's got 3 medals, all of them bronze. I'd love to see her win gold.
Yeah.
I've got to say, can she do it? Yes, she's not the favourite, but she's clever and she's strong. She'll need everything to come together on the day, but that is possible.
It is possible, yeah. Italy actually haven't announced their team as we record this, but I don't see them rivalling the strength in depth of others that we've already mentioned, so it should all be for Longo Borghini.
After that, we've got Kim Lecourt-Pinard of Mauritius. Revelation of the season in many respects, and you've got to say that if you've won Liège, you've got a chance here. Obviously, she won't have much team support, but in some ways that takes some of the pressure off. She can kind of freeload off the others.
The other rides and teams, yeah. Given what we've seen from Lecourt-Pinard so far this year, I'd say she's going to be quite hard to beat if she's on that same form, especially as the women's race doesn't tackle that longer climb. Kasia Niewiadoma of Poland is next up at 11-1. She got bronze back in 2021, but this has surely got to be her best opportunity in terms of the parcours. Her only race since the Tour de France was the Grand Prix Stuttgart, and she was 5th there actually, despite a relatively flat race.
Again, I'd love to see her win, and you wouldn't bet against it. She doesn't win often, but when she does, she wins big.
Yeah.
Next, we have Marlin Reuser of Switzerland. I'm a little surprised she's this far down the order of favourites, to be honest. I'd have her at a lower odds, personally, based on this season. Like I said, for the TT, though, her form is a bit of an unknown. Switzerland also have Elise Chabet and Naomi Rugg amongst their team.
Right, moving on. Next up, Liane Lippert of Germany. 3 times in the top 5 in the last 5 editions of the Worlds, but never has she got a medal. I do wonder, though, if this course is a little bit too hard for her, but her consistency in this race says quite a lot. She could well be up there. Germany also have Bauernfeind, national champion Koch, and also Niedermeyer, who should be strong as well.
The next favourites are Labouche, Chabet, Cabal, Scribin and Vos, who we've already mentioned. And then after that, it's Isabella Holmgren. However, she's doing the under-23 event, for which she'll be the strong favourite. So then we go on to Niamh Fisher Black of New Zealand, Blanca Vass of Hungary, Dygart of the USA. Longer odds than all of them, though, are the likes of Chip Ludwig, Garcia, Spratt, and Norman Pasio. All very good riders.
They are. Admittedly, most of those that you just read out are in their last few years as a pro rider, but nonetheless, I don't think they should be completely discounted. There's some value there, actually, if you like a long shot. Just finally, Urska Zegart of Slovenia. She does struggle sometimes on technical parts and descent, of which there are quite a lot, obviously, but there's no doubt of her strength on the climbs, and there are even more of them than descents, at least by duration, anyway.
And that just about covers all the main favourites. If you're wondering why we've not mentioned anyone from Team GB, that's because there is nobody from Team GB. They haven't entered anyone into the elite women's race.
Strange one, that. Does sound like they're concentrating on the U23 event with Ferguson, Wolf and Bagstedt, doesn't it? Well, I was surprised that Henderson wasn't competing in the elite women's. Anyway.
Yeah. Right, just before we do make our predictions, we'll throw it out to you in the comments. Let us know who you think will win the elite time trials and road races.
Okay. You ready? I'm going to go first from our side, actually, Connor. I am going to go for Remco Evenepoel and Marlon Reusser in the time trials, and then Pogacar, the obvious one for the men's road race. And in the women's, I'm going to go for Demi Vollering. I think this is her year. I think this is the second World Champs of 3 that Pogacar is going to win in succession, finishing in Montreal next year.
Okay. I'm going to go for Evenepoel and Vollering in the time trials.
You said Reusser earlier.
Yeah,
you have changed your mind.
I think I'm going to go Vollering, and then you just backed it up with your prediction. I piggybacked you. In the men's road race, my head says Pogacar.
Well, I think everyone's head says Pogacar.
Yeah, but I just love an outside. I love an outside odd. So Pidcock or Ayuso, and I'm going to go Pidcock.
I'm not sure fourth favourite with the bookies can be classed as an outsider.
No, I think...
Or you might say that anyone that's not Pogacar
Well, that's it, yeah. Anyone who isn't Pogacar is an outsider.
Okay, well, I'll give it to you then.
And then, in the women's race, I'm going to go with Pauline from Provo.
Be nice to see that. I mean, how many years is it since you won the World Championships on the road? It must be 11 or 12 years ago that she won it. It'd be amazing to see her do it again, wouldn't it? All right, well, I don't know about you at home and you as well, Connor, but I'm actually really excited up for these World Championships now. Don't forget, you can watch a full season of bike racing live on Discovery Plus and Max.
Enjoy, everyone. Enjoy the racing, and we'll see you soon.